Sudan is a country in northeastern Africa that has been in a state of political and social turmoil for several decades. The country has been plagued by conflicts, civil wars, and political instability, resulting in widespread poverty, economic hardship, and a dire humanitarian situation. In this blog, we will discuss the root causes of the Sudanese crisis, its impact on the country and its people, and the efforts made to resolve the issue. The history of conflicts in Sudan has consisted of foreign invasions and resistance, ethnic tensions, religious disputes, and competition over resources. In its modern history, two civil wars between the central government and the southern regions killed 1.5 million people, and a continuing conflict in the western region of Darfur has displaced 2 million people and killed more than 200,000 people. Since independence in 1956, Sudan has had more than 15 military coups, and it has also been ruled by the military for the majority of the republic's existence, with only brief periods of democratic civilian parliamentary rule. Political context. Former president and military strongman Omar al-Bashir presided over the war in Darfur, a region in the west of the country, and oversaw state-sponsored violence in the region of Darfur, leading to charges of war crimes and genocide. Approximately 300,000 people were killed and 2.7 million forcibly displaced in the early part of the Darfur conflict. The intensity of the violence later declined. Key figures in the Darfur conflict included Mohammed Hamdan Hemedi Dagalo, a warlord who commanded the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, which evolved from the Janjaweed, a collection of Arab militias drawn from camel trading tribes active in Darfur and portions of Chad. Al-Bashir relied upon the Janjaweed and RSF to crush uprisings by ethnic Africans in the Nuba Mountains and Darfur. The RSF perpetrated mass killings, mass rapes, pillage, torture, and destruction of villages, and were accused of committing ethnic cleansing against the Fur, Misalit, and Zagawa. Key leaders in the RSF have been indicted by the International Criminal Court, ICC, of genocide, war crimes and crimes against humanity, although Hemedi was not personally implicated in the 2003 to 2004 atrocities. Bashir formalized the militias in 2013, creating the RSF as a paramilitary organization and giving its commanders formal military ranks. Hemedi was given the rank of lieutenant general. In 2017, a new Sudanese law gave the RSF the status of an independent security force. Under the patronage of al-Bashir, Hemedi became wealthy and powerful, acquiring gold mines in Darfur. Bashir sent RSF forces to quash a 2013 uprising in South Darfur, and also deployed RSF units to fight in Yemen and Libya. During this time, the RSF also developed a working relationship with the Russian private military outfit Wagner Group. These developments ensured that RSF forces grew into the tens of thousands, including thousands of armed pickup trucks, which regularly patrolled the streets of Khartoum. The Bashir regime allowed the RSF and other armed groups to proliferate to prevent threats to its security from within the armed forces, a practice known as coup-proofing. In December 2018, protests against al-Bashir's regime began, the first phase of the Sudanese revolution. 8 months of sustained civil disobedience were met with violent repression. In April 2019, the military, including the RSF, ousted al-Bashir in a coup d'état, ending his 3 decades of rule. The army established a transitional military council, a junta. Bashir was imprisoned in Khartoum. He was not turned over to the ICC, which had issued warrants for al-Bashir's arrest on charges of war crime. Protests calling for civilian rule continued. In June 2019, the RSF perpetrated the Khartoum massacre, in which more than 100 demonstrators were slain and dozens were raped. Hemedi denied orchestrating the attack. In August 2019, after international pressure and mediation by the African Union and Ethiopia, the military agreed to share power in an interim joint civilian-military unity government, the Transitional Sovereignty Council, headed by a civilian prime minister, Abdallah Hamdok, with elections to take place in 2023. However, in October 2021, the military seized power in a coup led by Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF, leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and RSF leader Dagalo. The Transitional Sovereignty Council was reconstituted as a military junta led by al-Burhan, monopolizing power, and halting Sudan's brief transition to democracy. Tensions between the RSF and the Sudanese junta began to escalate in February 2023, as the RSF began to recruit members from across Sudan. A brief military buildup in Khartoum was succeeded by an agreement for de-escalation, with the RSF withdrawing its forces from the Khartoum area. The junta later agreed to hand over authority to a civilian-led government, but it was delayed due to renewed tensions between Generals Burhan and Dagalo, who serve as chairman and deputy chairman of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, respectively. Chief among their political disputes is the integration of the RSF into the military. The RSF insisted on a 10-year timetable for its integration into the regular army, while the army demanded integration within 2 years. Other contested issues included the status given to RSF officers in the future hierarchy, and whether RSF forces should be under the command of the army chief, rather than Sudan's commander-in-chief, who is currently al-Burhan. They have also clashed over authority over sectors of Sudan's economy that are controlled by the two factions. As a sign of their rift, Dagalo expressed regret over the October 2021 coup. Current issues. On April 11, 2023, RSF forces deployed near the city of Meroe in Khartoum. Government forces ordered them to leave, but they refused. This led to clashes when RSF forces took control of the Soba military base south of Khartoum. On April 13, 2023, RSF forces began their mobilization, raising fears of a potential rebellion against the junta. The SOF declared the mobilization illegal. An armed conflict, sometimes referred to as a civil war, between rival factions of the military government of Sudan began on April 15, 2023. It started when clashes broke out in western Sudan, in the capital city of Khartoum and in the Darfur region. As of 25 April, at least 559 people are believed to have been killed and more than 4,000 others had been injured. The fighting began with attacks by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, on key government sites. Airstrikes, artillery and gunfire were reported across Sudan, including in Khartoum. As of April 23, 2023, both the RSF leader Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo and Sudan's de facto leader and army chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan claimed control of several key government sites, including the General Military Headquarters, the Presidential Palace, Khartoum International Airport, Burhan's official residence, and the SNBC headquarters. The conflict between the two generals has led Sudan to the brink of renewed civil war, and it has been referred to as a burgeoning civil war. Despite the ongoing ceasefire, the SOF launched airstrikes on RSF positions around the Presidential Palace and in Khartoum Bari. Fighting also continued in Jenaina. The RSF accused the SOF of attacking its base in the Kafuri area of Khartoum Bari. Observers reported that the RSF was committing abuses against the civilian population in Darfur, particularly in Niala and Jenaina, such as arson, theft, looting, destruction of property and killing. Evacuation of foreign nationals. The outbreak of violence has led foreign governments to monitor the situation in Sudan and move towards the evacuation and repatriation of its nationals. Among some countries with a number of expatriates in Sudan are Egypt, which has more than 10,000 citizens in the country, and the United States, which has more than 16,000 citizens, most of whom are dual nationals. Efforts at extraction were hampered by the fighting within the capital Khartoum, particularly in and around the airport. This has forced evacuations to be undertaken by road via Port Sudan on the Red Sea, which lies about 650 kilometers, 400 miles, northeast of Khartoum. From where they were airlifted or ferried directly to their home countries or to third ones. Other evacuations were undertaken through land crossings or airlifts from diplomatic missions and other designated locations with direct involvement of the militaries of some home countries. Some major transit hubs used during the evacuation include the Port of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia and Djibouti, which hosts military bases of the United States, China, Japan, France, and other European countries.